highlight of the biggest stories we tracked for you over the course of this week. On the local front, Nigeria and other low-income countries piled up a debt of $860 billion last year following the COVID-19 outbreak, and that's according to reports from the World Bank. Nigeria's budget deficit under the President Muhammadu Buhari has also risen to 20.64 trillion naira. That's the latest data we also have from the Budget Office. The federal government is also set to offer 150 billion naira bonds for subscription for this month. On the foreign scene, Apple Incorporation is also set to consider slashing production of its iPhone 13 by as many as 10 million units due to global chip shortages. In China, export growth unexpectedly accelerated in the month of September as outbound shipments jumped 28.1%. And still staying with China now, thermal coal prices surged to fresh record highs as recent floods in a key coal-producing province worsened a supply crunch. Well, it's now time to bring you packages prepared by our correspondents. In this first report, the Central Bank of Nigeria has come under criticism over its dabbling into fiscal policies regarding the list of items restricted from accessing foreign exchange from the Apex Bank. Port users argue that the ban is not favorable, considering present realities. TVC News correspondent Ifunayeze reports.
The Central Bank of Nigeria had in 2015 announced that 41 items will no longer be allowed to access foreign exchange. This means that though the items are not prohibited nor contraband, importers of such items would have to source for foreign exchange from wherever, but certainly not from banks in the country. The reason given at the time was that the policy would help conserve foreign exchange and encourage local production of goods. The latest addition of sugar and wheat, which are staples in Nigeria, to the list of items restricted from accessing Forex, is not going down well with port users who are accusing the Apex Bank of not being sensitive to the plight of businesses.
Importers of these commodities still source for money in the black market. So why do you now say that, okay, because of this item, you are putting forex prohibition on them? And it's causing confusion. 90% of concealment and false declaration in the port today is as a result of these commodities that are placed under forex prohibition. And you find a situation now, even when you want to open your firm, all the commercial banks will not open it for you. You need a clearance letter from the CBN, and these are the issues that is actually encouraging corruption.
They insist the policy is strangulating the economy, more so when currency regulatory and monitoring frameworks are being circumvented.
You should not tell Nigerians what happens to the Monday money that is and dollars that is given. Who are they giving that money to? We have a situation where we give priority to unnecessary things. People want to go to Saudi Arabia now or Israel for pilgrimage. You want to give them dollars at official rate. Somebody who is importing commodity that Nigerians will consume, that will help us, that will make us to be strong. You are making that place, you are suspending that one, and you are putting that commodity on forex prohibition. It's very obvious that we do not know what we're doing.
They want a national debate on the issue to allow for extensive deliberations on what is realistically tenable.
And now in this next report, the Nigerian Export Promotion Council, that's the NEPC, has tasked exporters in the country to also explore the numerous benefits of e-commerce to boost Nigeria's non-oil export sector and reach global markets. The NEPC Executive Director and Chief Executive Officer Segun Awolowo made the call during the inauguration of the Amazon Export Warehouse in Lagos. Blessed Omonuse has the details.
The Nigerian Export Promotion Council (NEPC) has over the years remained committed to its mandate of coordinating and harmonizing export development and promotion activities in the country. The effective operation of the agency under the leadership of Mr. Segun Awolowo has seen the country's non-oil exports increased by 14% from 1.74 billion naira in 2019 to 2.74 billion naira in 2020. However, with the launch of the 50 billion naira export expansion facility program, local exporters in the country have been able to penetrate the global market with competitive products that are globally recognized. Against this backdrop, The NEPC have partnered with Export and Sell Nigeria Limited to boost the export of non-oil products from the country to the United States by selling on Amazon. While addressing journalists at the inauguration ceremony of the Amazon Export Warehouse in Lagos, the NEPC boss explains that the initiative will enable small and medium enterprises to sell on the e-commerce platform and boost the country's foreign exchange earnings.
Now, getting on the Amazon platform, it's a very tricky and delicate process because you don't want your goods to be rejected. So there is a lot of training, a lot of certifications that goes into it for you to be able to put your goods on that platform. And once it's there, you're going all over the world. People are ordering your goods and it's moving through a very effective system of logistics that distribute these goods. It's not going to help us, not only for AGOA, the African Growth Opportunity Act in the United States, but it's also going to help us for the African Continental Free Trade Area.
These are the ones.
Other exporters at the event who applauded the initiative say the project will strengthen export capacity and expand the nation's GDP. As the non-oil export continues to grow, with this development in place and the operationalization of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, the non-oil space in Nigeria might continue to experience massive growth.
Well, on that note, it's now time to bring you our feature on the show today as we take a look into the state of the Nigerian economy through the lens of the currency market. Don't go anywhere. We'll deal with the crux of today's discourse. Mixed reactions have trailed the Vice President Yemi Osinbajo's speech at the opening session of the midterm ministerial performance review retreat. Now, the issue at hand is whether or not his statement refers to the devaluation of the Naira. He, however, stated that he is not calling for devaluation of the Naira, contrary to some reports that have trailed his speech. Against the backdrop of the recent exchange rate crisis, the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, has also advocated allowing market forces to determine the value of the Naira while stating that the exchange rate is artificially low and this is deterring investors from bringing foreign exchange into the country. During the week now, we saw the Naira exchange at about 411 Naira to the US dollar at the official side of the market, while changing 565 Naira to 570 Naira to the US currency at the parallel market. Well, joining me now to discuss this and much more virtually, I have economist Adeola Ojo. Good to have you on the show today.
Thank you so much, sir.
Now, let's start off with some arguments that some analysts have put forward that what we're experiencing in the foreign exchange market is largely consequence of the CBN policy choice of a fixed exchange rate regime and administrative allocation of Forex. It's a policy regime that has somewhat created a huge enterprise around foreign exchange, round tripping, speculation over invoicing, capital flight and much more. Do you share in this sentiment, and what do you make of the trading value of the Naira as we speak today?
I just want to say this, that to be fair to the CBN, they've tried everything possible to make sure that the Naira is okay and the Naira is stabilized. I also want to let us know that as of now, they are not operating a fixed exchange regime, but what they actually have in place is a managed float, as a float exchange rate management regime. But what they only do is to manage it in such a way that the Naira will not spiral out of effect, and also it will not in any way be too pricey in such a way that the economy is going to be affected. That's what they do as of now. And though at one time or the other, when you look at what they currently do, we'll see that many people have taken the opportunity to do a whole lot of things, many bad things and many horrible things around the Naira and Forex. And I think that's the reason why we have the issue of round tripping, which the CBN governor mentioned at the other time. And that was one of the reasons why he said the BDCs should go. And also, he actually had to come all the way also for one of the Aboki effects and co. Because the issue of round tripping was in place, speculation also was in place. That's one of the things also that was Aboki effects was the owner. Onimide was accused of. Then the issue of many other things that are actually around it. So I think the policy framework of CBN has actually allowed that to be in place. And I think they need to rework it They need to rejig their policy framework and see how best they can manage it. Then when you look at the pricing of the thing of Forex, especially as regard Naira in the market as of today, yes, the parallel market is talking about 565 to 570, 575 Naira as of now. And we have the official window telling us 410 to 415 Naira as of yesterday. Then you look at it and say, okay, 410, 415, the VP said is not the best price, is low. And 565, 575 from our own end is a bit way too high. So I would say that the way the market is tilting as of now, there is a need for us to have an equilibrium, a place where both the parallel and the official market can actually come together. And I think that range should be around maybe 450, 470 as of today.
And now, some also believe that the responses we've had from the Apex Bank largely amount to tackling the symptoms of a problem rather than dealing with the causative elements, insisting that the CBN does not seem to believe in or trust the market mechanism. Yet market systems are time-tested, wouldn't you say, as instruments of efficient resource allocation in leading economies around the world. How do you validate this? Tallying it to the statement of the Vice President that the Forex demand management strategy adopted by the CBN also needs somewhat of a rethink.
Yeah, I will start from that last part, the last question, the last line, the Forex demand management of the CBN. I think he was emphatic in that, and I think I can give him kudos in that regard, because for quite a while, but when you look at the history of forex exchange management in Nigeria, especially from 1986, you could actually see that there was a direct plan by the authorities then to tackle foreign exchange management, to actually manage it the way it should be done. And then it was actually on supply as well as demand. But later on, and during Soludo era and Sanusi era, we have it in the two balance, that is the demand and the supply were all working together. But by the time we actually came to MFLA's government of CBN, we now actually saw that most of the policy framework are towards the demand management parts. What do we mean by forex demand management that the VP was referring to? We are looking at the issue of the CBN was looking at that demand side. Oh, how can we help to control how people demand for dollar? Whereas what this VP is now saying is, I want you to look at the position of how can we get more dollar, supply of dollar into the economy. And I think because of the issue of demand for dollar, that was why we had the 41 imports, those who were restricted. Then we have some other places, or some other ones that were on the prohibition bill. And he said this thing is not helping the economy. When you ban wheat, when you ban this, when you ban that, they have to go to a parallel market to go and source for. At the end, it's going to cause instability in the market, because those things that by the time I go to parallel market to purchase, I have a price that I'm purchasing at the parallel market. When I import my things, I must recover my fund. Eventually, we look at the whole thing. So he is saying that we should move from that aspect of demand management to the aspect of supply. And I think the CBN looked into that regard, that aspect earlier this year, when they said, okay, bring in your dollar. When you bring in your dollar, you get 5 Naira for every dollar you bring to the country. As a result of that, we saw that from $5 million that we are receiving, I think, per week, it went to $500 million per week. That is one of the things that we're considering. So how best can we also help to push more dollar into the market through our supply side management? And I think that's what the VP is emphasizing.
Government and the CBN has also been very, very cautious of the term Naira devaluation. Financial experts say any proposal for a further devaluation of the Naira will definitely worsen the already fragile economic situation in the country, as it is capable of pushing inflation to at least about 25% in no distant time. Do you share in this sentiment as well?
Devaluation is not the best way. When you look at the idea of devaluation, especially as regards economies, we saw that when IMF was to be instituted, in the article of agreement, devaluation is one of the major criterion that was instituted into the article of agreement. And they actually recourse that when there is a disequilibrium in any economy, then devaluation or devaluation may need to, or revaluation may need to be taken to bring about equilibrium. So devaluation in some instances can help to bring about equilibrium in a market where there are instability or where there is a disequilibrium. So in Nigeria as of now, which is one of the developing countries, we have a disequilibrium. That is our level, or let me say current account. The inflow and the outflows, they are different. And most of the time we run a deficit rather than a surplus. So what do we need to do to be able to help us have, what do I call it now, a pricey or good market? Because there are three reasons why you actually go into devaluation. One, you may use it to boost your exports. Two, you may need it actually as a government to use it to, because if there's a particular debt you have to pay, especially if it is a debt that is sovereign debt like treasury bill and others, you can also use it so that you pay less on interest apart from. And the third reason, in some instances, is actually maybe in one way or the other, you want to control the internal market, as the case may be, maybe just for you to be able to check a balance, maybe bring about a balance in the economy. So in one way or the other, we could look at it in Nigeria. All the things, all the framework, all the things pointing out actually have shown that we should devalue the Naira. But we've seen, like I used to say, that there are things beyond the normal. Yes, it may be a thing that will work in some other countries, but in Nigeria, the way and manner it works, it's a bit different.
In an attempt also now to stabilize the Naira, the CBN has taken up a lot of measures, and the governor, Emefiele, has also made mention of almost exhausting all the arsenals in a previous MPC meeting. The vice president in his delivery also mentioned synergy between the fiscal and monetary authorities. How do you see things playing out, especially as some have the notion that the monetary authorities are somewhat competing or attempting to take on roles of the fiscal authorities? Do you see any synergy, and how would this also affect our performance in the nearest future?
Looking at it, I think I will give kudos to CBN for what they're actually doing. And like you have said, and it is being said, that whatever they are doing now, they're actually doing it for the welfare, for the betterment of the economy. Yes, I want to take us a little bit into history lane. I think in 1986, we have, when the foreign exchange management was in place, the CBN that is the CBN Monetary Authority, were given the mandate to attend to small and medium scale enterprises then, that is the private sector, while the public sector, that is the ministries, were to attend to public sector. And later on, that aspect was converged, and to the extent that today we have the public sector, that is the ministries attend to the public sector and everybody, and the CBN attended only to monetary authority, which is actually their areas of work. But we could see that since the pandemic and afterwards, there are lots of issues, and there is a need for us to reflate the economy. And for us to be able to do that on time, the CBN actually came up with that mandate. You know, even before the COVID, they have come up with several agricultural company, so many other policies to be able to help the economy grow. And that has been in place. So when COVID came and the economy went down, they actually came to push in more money into the economy and help the economy stabilize and get back to its feet. So if it is being considered now as venturing into the realm of the ministries, I think what the CBN should do is to go back, sit with the fiscal authority, and see how best they can work together. But we've known that in this administration, performance, especially of our public sector, has been a bit poor, abysmally low. Our ministries have not been doing the work they ought to do. Our ministers too have been a bit lax in their duty. So if we are going to actually allow them to use bureaucracy, they will use bureaucracy to kill every plan of CBN. And I think that's the reason why the CBN is taking the step as it is. So maybe you might have called it, but I think going forward, both of them may need to actually sit down and sit together and see how best they can run this economy and make sure the economy is better for it. But what CBN is doing as of today is okay from my own point of view, and it's nice.
I'd like to create a scenario here now. Take, for example, the analogy created by the Vice President, who says the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment should handle MSMEs' interventions In other words, if the CBN is intervening in the MSME sector, it should be with the full cooperation of the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment. What sort of shift in narrative do you think this would also bring about?
It has happened before and they were able to manage it. So I think going forward, from my own point of view, that they shouldn't have issue around it. There shouldn't be any issue. Both the CBN and the Monetary Authority, they should work together. They should work together. But what I'm saying is that giving it over alone to the ministries will kill whatever good plan that is in place. It will kill it. And we've seen that in this country. Every policy of government, we are going to do this, we are going to do that. Most of the time, it will drag from January to December. And at the end, it will die. If you put in money, the money will not get to the last whatever. Take into consideration what happened during the COVID. They said they were feeding, yes, I'm not alleging anything, but they said they were feeding our children, humanitarian affairs across the country. But at the end, it came to the conclusion that how was it done? And a principal example was my father. I just want to cite that example. My father, they said they are going to bring in food to us because he's more than 60 years old. And at the end, they got his name, they got his details, they got his address. But till today, that food has not been delivered. And I think in their record, it would have said it has been delivered. So if CBN should give money to such people, and they will say they have delivered the money, and the money will not get to the end user. So in one way or the other, what CBN is doing is okay, because let it get to the people, let us manage this thing, let us reflect the economy, then we'll come back to the discussion table. But going forward, I think the CBN could work with the ministries in such a way that the ministries have the reach to the people. They have the reach to the hinterland. They are the one that CBN only have reach to the monetary authorities, to the banks. And that is only their reach. That's the ways they can control. But to the number of people, to the number of SMEs, to the number of ministries, to the number of personnel, to the number of states, these ministries have that record and they can manage it. So I think going forward, they may need to synergize, but do not give them the right to just manage everything from the front to the back. But let them work together so that the effect can be more pronounced, and it can also get to everybody, and everybody will be better for it.
And now, wrapping up our conversation, let's also look at the fact that we're already wrapping up the year 2021 and the fall in the Naira, which is also taking a toll on the operational cost and resource base of both small and large business units and corporates. Do you see a future of higher fragility or not, especially as we're yet to become a strong export nation? And how do we churn out more for the global market in our quest for revenue generation?
The year actually started with the idea that there's going to be a level of devaluation, which actually was taken into consideration in March, later on in July, until now. Some of the benefits we actually thought will happen have not happened. And we've seen that the Naira have been going up steadily and sometimes sharply since the beginning of the year. So I will say, as the year is running to an end, we're still going to have it going that way. I do not expect to see it come down, especially within the next 2 months of the year. It's still going to grow, maybe get to around 570 or 580, or come back, maybe at the end, maybe settle as 560 for the parallel market, and the exchange rate at the official market will still remain at 411, 413 or 415. But I want to say something. Government officers, they should know that they are in the public view. They should be careful whatever they will say. What the VP said some days ago actually has affected the way the market traded. And we could remember, like, it was 410, 411 at the official market before the VP spoke at the midterm meeting. And from then, it jumped from 411 to 415. And you could see the level of instability of one man speaking. I could remember the other time too, when such one man gave a statement on cryptocurrency. You could see the way it affected, because it was an authority in that regard. So our people, our leaders should be careful the way and manner they speak in public domain, especially around management of our Forex, management of the economy. There are some things you can discuss at your inner room, rather than bring it to the public view. It is your decision. It is your policy framework that you should bring to the fore so that everybody know the plan or the way you are going so that we can go along with you. So that is a view that I consider. So I would say going forward, Naira in a way, I think CBN also will sit down to analyze what has been said and also consider that issue of looking at the supply side and see how best we can help bring dollar into the economy, that is Forex into the economy. Then also make Forex access easy, because as it is now, there are so many things you cannot access in the banks, which you still have to go to the parallel market. And I think that's the reason why we have this instability. Then we have been saying it. Let us reconsider the aspect too of we put total ban on them. Let's make this thing liberal. We have import and exchange window. We are not using it the way we should use it. Let's bring it to a level that everybody have access to a common market. Then we'll sell it at the same price.
Thank you very much for your time on the show today, Adeola Ojo. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Well, just before we go, now here are graphic details of the inflation data for the month of September. That's it on this edition of Business Week. Many thanks for watching so far. Do enjoy the rest of your weekend. I'm David Alabi. Bye for now.